Welcome, friends, syncretists, lovers of truth. I have a good friend with me today, Clayton, CEO of Root Brand. Yeah, that's you, dude, with the blue glasses, looking real super cool, and the funky hairdo. That's why I wear this, because you don't want to see my hair just going all over the place. How you going, brother?
You know what? It's good to be able to hang out with family again and be back, right? And the crazier this gets, the more influential the crazies think you are anyway. So let's just take the cap off and let it go. It's the argument that I have with Christina all the time. She's like, I got to do my hair. I'm like, no, 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 just let it be. If it gets kinky and curly and dirty, that's the best. It's what people need to see. Um, but we live in an interesting time, don't we? I mean, things just getting more and more and more true, right? And that old adage that the truth shall set you free. I it's- as more and more gets disclosed, and as we learn more, and as we start seeking or we get closer to what truth is, the disruptions that we get for being closer to or seeking truth is quite unique. So it's good to
Yes.
be here. I think over what God, how long has it been since we got to hang out last? It's been like a year or two.
No, 2 years. In fact, I want to say to the listeners, go back on Mr. Astrotheology and you will see a video there that we did about 2 years ago. In fact, I'll check now while if you want to say something or whatever. Um, let
But
me check my channel, okay?
yeah, I think the big part with this is like there's three things that are kind of foundational in my perspective in what we do: the sun, the moon, the truth. Right? They all come out, and with that, there's foundational truths that we deal with in society that have to be addressed in order for anything else to work. Right? And we hear this talked about in so many different aspects, whether we look at the environment or we look at our environment or we look at the plane that we're on in general. There's a level of toxicity that exists within us and within our environment that is absolute. And this has actually been built from creation. When the planet that was a big ball of water with the underlying liquid hot magma, that volcanoes erupted and terraformed to create that which we get to live on, the same aspects that we come from. The volcanic eruptions are nature's largest emitter of mercury and heavy metals into the environment. So, at the same time that that process was taking place, the creative process created a mechanism to clean up the environment. But every day since, the environment's been poisoned and polluted. Some of it's being remediated, but then with our growth in industry, especially going back into the 1970s, we have all of these other environmental pollutants, chemicals, toxins that are being emitted in the environment, put in the environment, sprayed in the environment, sprayed in the air, that are in us, on us, through us, that are poisoning us and destroying us. Some intentional, maybe some unintentional, but it's an absolute. And as we look at our spiritual ascension process that we're supposed to be in, it is it is the one thing that retards our connectivity to our source. And I honestly think that a lot of that is intentional, because it if we're a biological antenna, which we are, we're this amazing quantum computing system that has more electrical connectivity and capability than anything ever built, and has a spiritual component that I would argue nothing else on the planet has in the way that we have it. That capacity is something that more nefarious sources would want to have and want to control, other than allowing it to connect back to home. So when you understand that this is that biological tower, what are you going to do to take care of it, and what are you going to do to make sure that you're being connected to that which you're made to connect to, not which you're being programmed to connect to? And that theory, what we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years, what we were talking about 2 years ago, a lot of it had been somewhat proven, and some was theoretical. Now, 6 years into the journey for what Root is and what we've done, but 2 years after what we got to hang out on, we now know is true. Right. So when we look at aspects of performance, when we look at the the ability to address specific diagnoses that all pertain to the same foundational issues, things like autism, things like ADD, ADHD, dementia, Parkinson's, depression, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, colon cancer. We actually have the clinical case studies and the data to show the process, the mechanisms, and the outcomes to watch all of those go away. And the patents have been filed for the process to address each one of those. We're in a little different situation now. So
Good.
it's good to be back.
Yeah. Well, people have been getting it off my site. It's on universaltruthschool.com, and it's been selling. So
Let's do some more, because here's how do we want to hit on this? What's the important part to hit on? Because I know we were chatting before and we were talking about pineal gland function, right? Because it's a big piece for people to talk about, because we understand that's the spiritual center of the entire mechanism. But what's being missed is the fact that your brain, your pineal gland, your heart, and your gut are all connecting through your vagus nerve as a primary communication pathway, and how they're all working together, right? Because you hear people talk about, oh, well, I need to improve my brain health. So maybe they're talking ibogaine, or they're talking about psychedelics, or they're talking about ayahuasca, or they're going to hit on, oh, well, we want to talk about our pineal gland. So they're like, well, your pineal gland is calcified by fluoride, so you have to decalcify your pineal gland. Okay, great. They miss the point that your pineal gland is a little crystalline resonator that has crystals on the inside of it that are what's resonating with light. So it's not just about, oh, you got to decalcify it. You actually need to feed it so the crystals can grow, which means your pineal gland can get bigger, which means it becomes better at receiving light. But you also have to know that your heart is connected in that process. That this part is over here a little bit, is crucial as that vortex creator to keep everything flowing and function along with this and this. But your gut is storing the function for your immune system. It's the processing mechanism. It is not a digestive system. This is where the flaw is. We've proven this now. Your entire system is electrical. You hear people talk about, oh, we're frequency based, but they're not touching on exactly what that means, right? They're not hitting on the full spectrum of what being a frequency based being means. That means what you consume is not digested. It is processed and analyzed and used very quickly. We can see that in heart rate variability. You can actually see how your body's using the environment around you based on measuring stuff. But your gut is what's going to produce a lot of the neurotransmitters that your heart, your pineal gland, and your brain need to function in the way that we're intended to create. It's going to produce the tools that are necessary to connect you back to your source. You've got to give it the gasoline so the engine can produce the power that the steering wheel and the gas pedals can dictate. And it's your soul, it is your intention, right, that is driving the vehicle. This physical apparatus is only the vehicle itself, because that which is in you, your soul, your spirit, is what's in control the entire time. And seeing those all start to align in people and how they start to connect is the coolest thing. And that's where a lot of the clinical case studies and the data comes from, showing people that have been diagnosed as having issues. But when you start to address from the foundation, removing all the bad stuff, giving the bioavailable silica so the body can start upgrading its processing power, and then feeding it what it needs to function the way that it's intended to, bro, you get into some cool stuff.
Yeah.
So
So you and someone else developed this, right? This the Root brand.
me, and let me see if it'll follow me. Come here. Come on, camera. Come over here. No, it's not going to follow me. And well, I'll do it this way. And the boss. So let me see if I can put her on this screen this way. So that one, Dr. Christina Rom.
Yeah.
So she was, when we met a little over 10 years ago, she was, biotech research, cloning, molecular design, quantum physics, nanotechnology, bioscience engineering savant that's done all the coolest stuff in science and biotech. And I was on the other side, you can say the integrative health aspect, really focused on environmental toxicology and addressing the underlying problems from a toxicity standpoint and how to work to get them out. When we came together, it provided an opportunity for her to start to fulfill the prophecy that had been put over her like 27 years ago, to create solutions for this war on healthcare. And she'd been told that when she was at a Revision Ministries event in Alabama like 27 years ago. And she's like, there's no war in healthcare. And the couple that was doing the retreat, just like, there's this banner of Esther that we keep seeing over you, and we just keep getting the same message that this is where you're here for. They're like, there might not be a war right now, but there's going to be. And what allowed these two things to come together, she's been able to take all of her experience in science, in research, in biotech, in the healthcare industry, in conjunction with her own personal health journey from growing up in Southeast Missouri and having Lyme's disease when she was 19, and the journey that's provided of losing her memory, coming out of that after 2 years. She had a 105-degree temperature for like 2 weeks. They just had her in a bed of ice to make sure she didn't die. And she grew up. She grew up having a photographic memory and could speed read, right? Won National History Day in middle school, met her first president in middle school, but then at 19 contracts Lyme's disease, and she fell in a tick bed in North Carolina. And if you've studied the creation of Lyme's disease, you'll understand why North Carolina is kind of important. But she contracts Lyme, loses her memory. So had a photographic memory, lost it. Didn't know where she was from, didn't know her birthday, didn't know her parents' names. Took 2 years to recover, ends up going through school, gets her first master's, her PhD, and then started in the psychiatry and psychology, and then ended up going into research and pharma and biotech. But ends up having our first son, BC, before Clayton, and has a partial molar pregnancy. So she had twins. One of the twins became cancer, and instead of having a medical abortion to terminate the pregnancy and lose our oldest son, Duquesne, she chose to carry to term and end up with a brain tumor, a syringomyelia spine tumor, every kind of skin cancer you could ask for through this process. Our 21-year-old had cancer when he was 2 because of the environment that he was born into. And she's used all of these experiences, her personal experiences, to get to a point of knowing, okay, she's done cloning, she's done molecular design, she's been studying and working with quantum physics for 20 plus years. She's been at the forefront of biotech. She was at Bristol Myers Squibb doing HIV research with the first mRNA vaccines. Who freaking knew, right? She's worked in Wuhan. She's been to all these places doing research in biotech and pharma, not knowing what a lot of times what she was working on in some instances, but also not knowing why she was there until we got to a point where you go, do what you need to do, and then you start looking back of, oh, this is why I did this. And she was at Harvard from 2018 to 2020 catching up on their nanotechnology and bioscience engineering program. And it was interesting timing because there was 19 people in the program, military research and biotech. These are some smart people because I got to sit in on some of the classes. They're different, right? And as this whole thing was starting in 2019 and 2020, there was conversations that started over, you can't vaccinate in a live viral environment because you're going to create mutations like crazy. And you would never introduce mRNA vaccines into a human population because the data shows that they kill everything. Now that's true. How do I know that? Because my significant other was one that got to work on some of the research and they knew what happened. It's her favorite delivery mechanism. The side effect, though, is it kills everything. And that's not good. So, what she knew going into this was, look, these are the things that are going to happen. These are the things we need to address. Here are the things that the body's going to need to address all of these different issues. So I need to build these mechanisms that allow the body to get every piece that it needs to allow it to become what it's created to be. That's Root. That's why our first three products, the Trinity, are named what they are, because Clean Slate, Zero In, and Restore provide the foundation for what this needs to reboot the operating system, start upgrading, and start working and connecting back to the computer or back to our source. So then we can get in line, and then you can start adding in the other components that we need, because what we know scientifically is we know we are frequency based, right? That means we don't need calories. We need nutrients, but they need to be very, very specific. And if we're a biological computer, which we know, we're frequency based, we're quantum, we're energetic, we're electromagnetic, right? We are made from that which where we come from. So we are made from the planet that we live on, and we are made to connect back to it electromagnetically, which is why grounding is so crucial, because your bare feet on the grass and in the dirt and in the water and in the sand and in the snow is what connects you back to where we come from. This allows you to connect to the light of which we're created from. But these things are crucial. So that means if these are all truth, which they're absolute, then you don't need a lot of bulk. What you need is the specific nutrients and the specific combinations to connect us back to what we need.
Yep.
But you have to be a bioscience engineer to understand this shit. I'm not, you're not, she is. And there we go. And now we've now got all the clinical data and the clinical outcomes of looking at over 40 different disease states that she's already filed for patents on, of actually seeing these things go away, not because we're treating or trying to cure any disease states, But the understanding and the foundation, just like in the Matrix, there's no spoon. There actually is no disease. There never has been. There's only been the disruptions and the dysbiosis in the ecosystem that causes the symptomology that somebody figured out a long time ago that they could put a title to and give it a diagnosis to get you buying into a specific treatment, and a pathway that was created of control and medical management that would keep you away from what truth is. Freaking crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So essentially, the the education system. Let's just believe that we're animals, and that electricity is basically out of the question, and yet they will tell you that we're made of atoms, and atoms are electrical and they're empty, but they won't tell you that you've got to see your body as frequency, and it all begins in the mind. Disease starts, it's mental, right? So if
But
you understand.
what if we were already told? See, this is the interesting part of this environment and what we've been around, and I say we, what Christina and I have been around over the last 5 years. I never thought I'd be sitting down with royalty and heads of state and being in the Vatican and having conversations of Vatican and wanting to go into the library of the Vatican and being able to lay on the floor of the Sistine Chapel. Well, there's only a few people there, to be able to have the perspective and to be able to ask the questions of, you guys have all the truth in the basement. They're like, yeah, we do. And like, so you ask some strategic questions when you're in private, because you have people that will actually answer the questions, not publicly. And you go, all of this stuff is documented in the library, isn't it? And they're like, yeah. So that means what you just hit on has already been published. It's already been put in the public. It's already true. But it doesn't mean that you have access to it. It doesn't mean you're required to have access to it because it's already been put into the public. But it doesn't. Here's an interesting piece of truth that I learned 20 years ago. In 1976, and this, people are going to go, ooh, the World Health Organization, before they were hijacked. Oh, there goes AI. Now it's working. Thank you. The World Health Organization published a paper in 1976 proving and validating that mercury was the underlying cause of over 85% of chronic degenerative disease. They published it in 1976, but you know what we didn't really have access to in 1976 was access into PubMed and into the places where all of that research was being stored to be able to understand it. And even since that point, when PubMed came online with the internet and people started to be able to do research, how many people have actually gone to pubmed.gov and started doing research to find out, okay, let's look at environmental toxicology, and does mercury cause this and mercury cause that? Because if you go on Google and you go on the search engines, you're not going to get access into those databases. They don't go there. So you go, these things are true. It's already been put out there. It's already published. You just don't have access to it. And because you don't have access to it, or maybe you haven't gone to the right places to get the information, it doesn't mean that the information has already been put out and truth has already been exposed, but you're buying into the trust. So all of the truth doesn't have to be exposed if you're buying in on trust. And that's this disconnect of people are like, well, I haven't seen it, so it can't be true. I'm like, what if it's already been done and we live in a world where you're being controlled? And if you had access to all of the truth, it would fracture the entire infrastructure of the control mechanism. So they're obviously not going to give you access to all of it. But when you see it, or when you hear about it, or you apply it, you know truth. It's like quantum physics and physics. Quantum physics and physics are not things to be talked about and studied. they're things to be experienced, because you can't understand them without doing them. And that's the interesting part of the world that we live in now. We know it to be true because it's truth, but you have to see it and experience it. And that's the challenge.
So it's been a while since I've had the product. I was lucky enough to get it shipped to me twice. There's a big problem getting it to Mexico, isn't there?
Not anymore.
Right, because I'm wanting to get my hands on some. You've got the 3 products, right? Last
Well,
time.
we started with the Trinity, so we had Clean Slate, Zero In, Restore. Now we have those 3, Relive Greens, which Christina constructed based on what she used to get rid of her brain tumor and the research that she used to get rid of her brain tumor a long time ago, of using some of nature's most powerful greens and some other components, and using the right clinical dosages of those ingredients. This is a crucial thing when we look at greens, right? There's a few different greens products on the market that are really popular, but if you do some analysis, they will put an ingredient on the label, but there's not a clinically efficacious amount. Imagine making a cake where you need eggs and flour and butter and sugar and a little water, and you say, okay, we need these ingredients, but you use a pound of sugar, a sprinkle of flour, and a quarter of an egg. And you're like,
Exactly.
voila,
Nice cake.
it's not right. It might be a souffle, right? It could be creme brulee. You never know.
You can have your cake, but you can't eat it.
So it comes into the aspect of knowing what it takes to do it right, in the right amounts, in the right combinations, at the right time. And so you've got Clean Slate, Zero In, Restore, Relive Greens, and now Give Me Back My Youth, which is, we didn't have these certifications either when we started. Halal and kosher form of bovine collagen and colostrum that is cruelty free, because bovine collagen and colostrum are the sources that we actually need that are best for us. Finding cruelty free sources of bovine collagen and colostrum was a little difficult. But if you're vegan, you can actually use them. Even though they're derived from an animal, they're cruelty free sourced. And unfortunately, we try there. Here's the thing: you can't plant collagen, not as effective for the body, and plant colostrum doesn't really exist. If you've ever tried to milk celery or milk a carrot or milk a fruit, it's very difficult because they don't produce colostrum. So we need that natural source. We've got that, and then Sculpt and Crush, which are two of the newest components. Which Sculpt is a multifaceted mechanism to improve proper sugar metabolism and insulin metabolism, pull sugar out of fat stores, allow your body to convert it and process it and get rid of it, so you improve sugar metabolism. Not It is a natural GLP-1, so you actually have that satiety improve, but it's hitting on multiple pathways, so your body starts metabolizing sugars more effectively. But the biggest thing is it improves IGF-1, which are insulin growth factors, which means you don't lose muscle. You'll actually add muscle and burn fat. So it's not a weight loss piece per se, because in some instances you actually might not lose weight. Your weight could stay the same. You might lose a little bit. Sometimes you might even gain weight because muscle weighs more than fat. So if you're losing fat but actually gaining muscle, you could lose a lot of fat, add some muscle, and not see a change in your weight. And this is the difference from GLP-1s, because with these GLP-1s, with the injections, whether it's drugs or what they're talking about for other injections with peptide injections, is you're losing fat and you're losing muscle, which means you lose a lot of weight. not ideal. And then crush, which is a secret weapon, is basically a combination of essential aminos and peptides that feed your body a perfect profile, so you don't need protein consumption. It's an alternative to meat consumption and other consumables for protein, because we don't just need protein. If you're consuming animal protein, like we were talking about a little bit before, we don't want to kill all the animals, right? But when you eat animal protein, you might consume 60 grams. Your body has to break down that animal protein into the amino acids that are built in that protein, but the nutrient profile isn't what it used to be. So you're not even getting the nutrients that you need from the protein that you think you're consuming. You're not getting the amino acid profile and the other cofactors that are necessary for your body to build muscle and connective tissue. So she bypassed that and took out the animal consumption aspect and just give the body all the essential amino acids and some of the peptides, along with some HMB and a proprietary phytoplankton, to give the body all the nutrients and allow your liver to metabolize it even faster. So you can maintain lean muscle mass or add lean muscle mass while not having to consume all of this mass. Because going back to the truth, we know that the environment is completely poisoned. That means not just what you're growing, but anything else that you're consuming is also exposed to the environment. So that means your consumption of things is also poisoning you. So she built the mechanism to get rid of that too. So it's kind of where we sit now. So the philosophy is really to become Rootarian, like if we were talking about a lifestyle or a diet style, is what we used to perceive as your supplementation now becomes your lifestyle, and you eat for fun, because what you consume is basically the supplementation to everything else that you already have. Because when she was designing this, she knew she needed to build something for us, like for me, for her, for our kids and our family, that we could live on if we couldn't get what we would need from the environment. And that's where we sit now. We know we can't we eat in the environment. We know the water's polluted. We know the air's polluted. And if those things are true, which we know they are, then you need an alternative. But also, if we know we're an electrical being, but maybe also if there were other species here, they wouldn't function the way that we do. Maybe they would process nutrients more effectively, so they wouldn't need quantity. They would only need specific amounts of specific things, because they would already know how to program the operating system. Very, very interesting.
Mm. Yeah, pretty much like a virus in a computer.
It
And
is exactly. Let's hit on virology really quickly so we can understand virology. So when the body contracts a virus, what is a virus? Right? A virus is a little packet of information, right? And when it comes into our body, our immune system is going to identify that new piece of information that comes in, and it's going to unzip it. It's going to open it up and unlock it, and it's going to take the information inside that packet and download it. And it's going to take all of the information that it doesn't need, and it's supposed to discard it. Now, just like in a computer taking in information, when you're running new computational patterns, or if you're trying to process cryptocurrencies, right? The process of your computer doing that work actually creates heat. Well, in the human body, that increase in heat would be identified as a fever, because your body's doing work to process all that information. After the body has taken in all of that information, it's learned from it, right? It's added in that information into your operating system. It's learned from it. It's supposed to flush out the rest of it. And then the heat process goes back down, because it's not having to do all the work again. And it comes back down into normal running and normal process. That's virology 101. Actually, that's not 101. That's way past 101. But that's how we function. if our body is not working the way it's intended and the way it's supposed to, something gets lost in those patterns and things get disrupted, and then chaos can ensue. But a healthy operating system is going to take information in, process it, learn from what it gets, get rid of the rest.
Yeah. It's down to science, which is knowledge.
Yeah.
Essentially, people are putting all their trust in others, like the medical profession and whoever else, and not learning how to look after themselves. I haven't had a common flu for 6 years. I haven't had any disease, anything, no fatigue ever. I never ever get fatigued. I'm
It,
walking barefoot every day. So yeah, it's about science. And see, I know that I'll never go to doctors or hospitals. I don't need them. I never have.
yeah.
Never.
Well, in that point, I was working on one of my life insurance policies a couple months ago, right? And it was a $50 million life insurance policy. So they do some research, and I was talking to the guy putting everything together for me, and he's like, "Well, we do a complete health background check. We're going to have an EKG and a stress test. We're going to do your blood and everything." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "So, you need to be upfront and honest. If you have any medical problems, any medical history, we're going to find it." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "So, where are we going to find your medical records?" I'm like, "You won't." He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You won't find any medical history on me." He's like, "No, there's going to be, you we're going to do all the research to pull your medical records." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have any. The last time I was at a physician was my pediatrician. And the last time I saw my pediatrician, I was 18 years old. I've never seen another doctor. There's no history." He's like, "You're 50 years old and you're telling me you have no medical history." I'm like, "That's exactly what I'm telling you. You can look it up." He's like, "That's bullshit." I'm like, "Bro, do you understand what I do?" I'm like, "No, I literally have no medical history." And it's just that of like, if you do it right, healthy is healthy. A healthy system doesn't have health problems. If you have a computer or you have an operating system that isn't bugged, isn't clogged up, isn't overrun, is constantly upgrading and updating and keeping itself clean, it's going to run for a long time efficiently. And it's not going to get old the way that the traditional things get old. If you have a car that was built in the 1950s and you've constantly maintained that vehicle, that thing's still going to run today. You could have 300,000 miles on an engine, and it's if you're keeping it tuned, and you're changing the oil and you're cleaning it and you're detailing it, it's still going to do what it's made to do. And if you continue to put in the work, it could be worth a ton of money, and that vehicle is going to get a lot of attention today because it's not just nostalgic, it's a piece of work. It's the same thing with this. You can be 70, 80, 90 years old. If you're doing the things that you should be doing for an extended period of time, you're going to function better than poorly maintained vehicles that are 20 years old.
Yeah.
That we will call the truth of Santos.
Yeah. So, yeah, I started my vegan journey 18 years ago. Before that, I had chronic fatigue syndrome and irritable bowel syndrome. Got rid of it in 6 months, and it's never been back, and it never will be back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I enjoy perfect health. I do have one thing that's kind of glitchy, which is every now and then this oppressive, nasty, hideous itch burns all over my skin. I had it last night. I filmed it and I uploaded it, which makes, which is leaves me in a vulnerable position because people see that and they make judgments. Oh, it's your diet. Oh, it's this, or it's your whatever. But I explained there that I've been to every single guru and every healer, and I've I've been on the case to get rid of this itch for years. The thing is, I was poisoned as a teenager with DDT. My father had a tobacco plantation, and I went down the river for a swim. I
Oh
was
God, yeah.
I was 15 or 16. It was getting dark, and so I had to get back home. It's half a mile, and the crop duster, the airplane just came over Dad's plantation and just dumped a shit ton of freaking DDT, and I had to walk through it. When I got home, my whole body was full of welts, white welts, all over my body.
Ugh.
My mother was horrified. She poured all this stuff on there. She didn't take me to hospital because it went down. But ever since then, this itch, since teenager, it will come and go. But now it's more often
Is
because
it seasonal? Are you finding, is it seasonal or is it
it just comes and goes.
okay? So here's the cool part. Here's a cool part with science. And this is where clean slate and also clean spirits. We didn't have clean spirits, I think, when we first chatted. So your liver is the primary mechanism for cleaning up that process. And actually, where Christina grew up in Missouri has some of the highest cancer rates in the entire country because of DDT and glyphosate. And she can remember as a kid, like they would be in the field and the crop dusters would come over, or because it gets so hot and so freaking muggy, they would run behind the trucks that were spraying all the fucking pesticides because it would cool them off. And then they were like, that's probably not a good idea. And all of our friends have had cancer, and a bunch of them are dead. And you go, huh, a clue. But your liver is supposed to process all of that stuff, and it can't. That's why we have kids now, even young kids that have fatty liver issues. But liver toxicity, your liver will express toxicity through a couple different pathways. The primary pathway happens to be skin. If you have eczema, psoriasis, rosacea issues that people have so predominantly now, that's all liver toxicity. That's your liver not being able to get all of that stuff out. And we've become so polluted that our liver and the rest of our detox pathways, P450, IL2, IL4, all these communication pathways don't work the way that they're supposed to. And our body was actually never made to deal with a lot of the stuff we're exposed to now anyway.
Mm,
So you see the expression of those things. Here's the coolest part though. When you start to clean these things up, right? Especially your liver, and you start detoxifying your liver, that stuff that comes out of your skin in the past, if you've had like eczema, psoriasis, even herpes, cool thing, you you know where you've had flares before, and you might not be symptomatic at the current point of what you're doing, but you've had issues in the past, and you know where those flares are. It could be your face, your arms, your back, your neck, your abdomen, wherever. As you start cleaning this stuff up and you give the body the means of starting to push stuff out, you will see things flare. So, like the itchy part, you might have itchiness in a specific area and you'll see an expression of that come out, but then it's going to clear, right? So your body's pushing all of those toxins out finally. So you can see it from an eczema standpoint where you might not have had eczema or psoriasis for a couple of years because of whatever you've been doing, but it'll come out, it'll flare, it'll come out, it'll be big or whatnot. But then when it goes away, it's gone. It never comes back because your body's actually, your liver and the rest of your system has been able to express it out and clean it out, and then it's all gone. I can't tell you how many times we've had that. I think we've got patents filed for eczema and psoriasis because of what we've seen clinically. But that's the actual pathway. The same thing with anger, right? When people have a couple drinks and they get really mad and get really angry, that's liver toxicity because the acetaldehyde that is being converted in your liver from the alcohol causes more liver toxicity. The liver expresses that frustration, which comes out as anger.
Mm.
It's so it's not that like someone's an angry drunk. It's like, no, your liver's really freaking polluted. And when you pollute it more, it gets frustrated. So the expression of your liver toxicity comes out emotionally or physically.
Yeah.
Freaking crazy. It's almost like all this stuff is connected.
Mm.
Who knew?
Yeah. Yeah. So, as for that, years later, I went to a naturopath who was supposedly one of the best in Australia, in Queensland. I went to him and I walked in his door and we just started chatting. And I said, yeah, he asked, what's your problem? I said, well, I've got this itch and I've had it for decades. Um, and he said, yeah, well, you've got lead poisoning. And I'm like, we only met 30 seconds ago. And he tells me straight away, first thing, well, you've got lead poisoning. I said, how do you know? He said, I can smell it.
Oh, yeah.
It says everyone that comes in to see me has got either aluminum, lead, beryllium. That's the
Mm-hmm.
one. Yeah, in the traily things. And there's others, right? And he says, I know the smells of all of them, and yours is lead.
Some people like Christina can smell fungus. She can smell death. And she knows she can smell cancer. She knows when someone's sick. And she's like, I just know. And a lot of times she won't talk about it with people, but if she's around somebody, she's like, I can't be around them. She's like, it's not gonna work. It's an issue. Um, so it's the unique aspect of some of us, of how we're made and what our gifts are. And what we have the capability to do once we're tapped into how we're created, because she wrote in her first book that we are each an imperfect piece to a perfect puzzle, right? And the beautiful part is understanding that we're all connected, right? We're 6 degrees from six.
Mm.
I call it from a marketing standpoint that we're 6 degrees from 6.5 billion people, but all 8 billion of us are all connected, right? And we're not just connected to humanity, we're connected to every animal, every plant. Because if you've watched Avatar, the beautiful part, and there's a new Avatar movie coming out, right? The symbolism that they made in Avatar of being able to show the electrical connectivity of the environment along with every species, and that we're all in one bioelectrical ecosystem, that is all connected. I mean, we're supposed to live in harmony with our environment, but that's not been the case. That if you truly are connected, then you're going to become resonant. It's the same thing like you talked about with these. Why do I wear blue lenses? Right? You hear all of these other influencers, these biohackers, like wear red lenses, wear yellow lenses because you're blocking the environment, right? And all the bullshit. Why do I wear blue? Because one of my one of our collaborating doctors, who's the top functional medicine doctor in Slovenia, and she's a specialist in the spectrum, right? Because she has a daughter who is vaccine injured that was in the spectrum, which we've been able to solve. But when I met with her, she's like, if you've ever been diagnosed as ADD or ADHD or autistic, and I'm like, yeah, look at me. She's like, you're left brain dominant. That's the thing. You're extremely high functioning, but you're left brain dominant. And so she put me on some machines and showing me some stuff. She's like, now here, put these lenses on. And it's just blue. I mean, they're not prescription or anything. It's just a blue lens. And the blue actually balances your right brain with your left brain. So it's amazing because in like 30 seconds, I was like, holy shit, the world's a completely different place. It's just soft and it's smooth, and it's not disruptive. And the cool part has been with our travels, because we have patents for reversing autism, but I'll be at events in our community in Europe, and I'll have parents come up talking about their kids and how they were nonverbal, and how they've seen amazing changes. And I'll just deal with kids. I'm like, here, try them, and you'll see kids put the glasses on, and it's in seconds. It's like 20 to 30 seconds. It's like, oh, wow. And then I'm like, keep them. I'm like, they're yours. I'm like, you can benefit more than this. And being able to go back over the last couple of years and see these kids as they're older and some teenagers, like I still have my glasses, I'm wearing them, I feel amazing, I'm doing all this great stuff in class, and like winning. So it's actually being able to bring the science, but being out and learning and not buying the hype in social media. I'm like, no, this is why this actually works. It's not. And it's like, okay, look, I'll put a different pair on, right? And they're a little bit different, but they're still blue. Ooh, hello. So it's being able to provide that change in environment. And people are like, why do you do that? Is it fashion? I'm like, no, it's actually function. It makes me not want to destroy you. So
Yeah, good one. Yeah, look, I do a lot of sun gazing and stuff like that. I'm surprised I can still see further. I mean, I've had my nose in books all my life. I'm
yep.
reading, no glasses, reading. Then the computer came along 25 years ago. And then when in 2007, when I got Syncretism and started researching, I was on the computer for 15, 16 hours a day. And I'm still, well, I wear these at the power of 3.5, 4. These are just so I can see little things, but I'm just surprised that I'm still seeing.
Well, and it's the interesting part of microvascularity. And if you're in the right environments and you're taking care of yourself, and as you talked about, the receptors in the eyes, for light, that you need sunlight, right?
Mm.
It's one of the most important things to get. But are you have you talked much with your audience about the detox triangle? Did we?
I talk about detoxing, but I don't know the triangle.
Oh,
What's
here we go. Let's dive into one of the most fun things. So the detox triangle is hearing, vision, and in men, erectile function. Because in your eyes, in your ears, and then in our willy is the smallest vascularity, right, in the body. So those areas are going to be the most susceptible to vascular inflammation earliest on. Most of that inflammation is caused by environmental factors. So if the same thing with neuropathy, right? If you look at heavy metals like mercury and lead and aluminum, they're they're neurotoxins, right? So they're going to get into your brain, but they're also get into your nervous system. So neuropathy will start at the extremities. It's going to start in your fingertips. It's going to start in your toes, and then it's going to progressively work back because it's going to the smallest areas of vascular or neurofunction cause damage, and then they'll progressively work back. So as you age, the areas that especially men, right? Because we don't hear very well anyway, because we don't listen. But your vision and your hearing and your erectile function are going to get poorer over time, not because those areas of function degrade with age. It's because they're overburdened with toxins. Those areas are becoming inflamed and they're not working as well. So your vascular function goes from this to this,
Mm.
and only a little bit gets through. So it means your vision's not going to be as good. You might be able to, things get cloudy. So you start wearing different glasses, and you're not you put contact lenses in, you do LASIK eye surgery, you do all these things that aren't correcting the issue. But if you start cleaning things up and you start reducing the systemic inflammation, all of those things come back. So this thing starts to go bing again, and it's good. And then you become happy because you don't need to see or hear very well if you can get rock hard. Guys are like, I'm good. You can take my vision, just give me the tools to do work. And then they can handle it themselves if they need to, or they can find a friend to help them.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to say I've never had a problem in that department. As as soon as this guy says something sexy, the other guy says, I'm on it.
But you know what? We were I forgot where we were flying. I think we were flying back home from Vegas, or a couple weeks ago. And like you were talking about reading, I learned this is a secret that we can give all of the guys and maybe some of the women. I learned like this $5 hack to increase penis size in seconds.
I need to reduce. Do you have one for reducing?
No, no, but get this. Here's what I did. Because I wore my reading glasses in the bathroom. Things were so much bigger. I was like, holy shit. And I took my glasses off and I was like, oh, it's normal again. Man.
Good
So
hack.
it was a great hack. I'm like, this is amazing. And then you're back to normal. So,
So you want you since we're talking about the old boy, you want to hear a good joke?
no, absolutely.
All right. So this white guy, we know the black guys that they're well endowed, right?
Well, most of them are. I'm Black Irish, so I have both sides. I'm good.
Okay. So anyway, his girlfriend's Wendy, so he tattoos the name Wendy on his boy. But when it's small, you just see the W and the Y because that's what you see. Anyway, so he goes to the bathroom one day and he flops it out and he's urinating. And this Jamaican guy comes up and pulls his out and starts urinating. And the guy looks over and he goes, holy shit, the guy's got WY tattooed on his penis like me. And I've got to ask the guy. He says, hey mate, he says, I noticed you got, sorry for noticing, but I noticed you got WY tattooed on your penis. And he said, and he goes, yeah. And he says, well, I also have, my girlfriend is Wendy. So I tattooed it on my penis. And he says, so is your girlfriend Wendy? He says, oh no, I work for the Jamaican tourist industry. And mine says, when it's extended, it says, welcome to Jamaica. I hope you enjoy your stay.
You go, wait a minute, what font is that in? You go, man.
That's for the Rastafaris out there.
Yep. And they're like, you know what? And we don't get to use all of it because the ladies are like, nope, sorry.
I know.
It's like, it's wasted space. Sorry.
Oh, God. Yeah, I just heard a recent story about a poor guy who was oversized and he just couldn't get girls. But eventually he settled, he found a wife and it worked. You know, I mean, it didn't hurt her, but the poor guy couldn't have sex.
Well, and I think it's the funny part of so many guys like, oh, I want to have a huge cock. And then women are like, good on you. Might not be good for me. And that's the point is like, okay. And this is an interesting part. Christina's actually going to launch a sex book. She's finishing it right now. I think it's going to launch in the first quarter of this next year. And talking about the science of sex and the problems that we're seeing now is, especially in America, because of the over sexualization of our population and the satanic influence, is that people are having so many different sexual partners. And especially when we look at Lyme's disease, right? Because Lyme is bacterial. And the same thing with COVID, when this whole COVID thing was starting and the virus and what have you, she's like, this is sexually transmitted, right? And Lyme and such, they're all sexually transmitted. But this aspect of sex, because of what it is bioelectrically, and the combination of yin and yang and the connectivity between two individuals, it's not something that's supposed to be shared amongst a mass population. It should be something that you find the right person. So it's that interesting aspect of looking at a lock and a key, right? Is you might have a really big key. And what does that mean? It's not that it's oversized and it's wrong for all of these other keyholes, or maybe it is, and you just have to find the right keyhole that matches your key. And it's not that there's 500 different keyholes. It's that you find that right one. And when you find that right one, it unlocks so much capability that you're like, holy shit, this is amazing. This isn't like anything else I tried before. Right. And it's an important part that, I try to teach. I'm trying to teach our kids, and we try to teach younger kids. Is like, look, you you don't need this massive body count. You actually don't want it, because you're actually transferring your energy to someone else. You're giving a piece of you away to someone that you're probably not going to be around the rest of your life. But you also don't know what you're getting back from them energetically. And if you're with someone that also has had, a massive body count, as these kids say, it's like you're getting a little piece of all of that back into you, and energetically and spiritually. You might not want all of that, because you don't know what the fuck you just got.
Yeah. Well,
So,
this is how parents know when their children first have sex. They just know
yeah,
the energy
it's
shifts.
different.
And how many times does a young lady bring a boy home to meet the parents, and the parents see something that the girl doesn't, and they warn her. They warn her, he's not good for you. Now, if she should go ahead and kiss that guy, that warning will mean nothing, because he's downloaded all of his alcoholism, all of his mind frame, all of his emotions to her. She changes on a swivel. She won't listen to her parents. Now she's got his DNA, she's got his thinking, and so she's fully with him, only to find out years later that the parents were right, and she walked into a disaster. So, yeah, you have to watch out. You have to watch out, because and women mostly, because they receive, they're more receiving somehow. I don't, but they change and adapt to their new partners really, 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 really quick.
Yeah, well, women are the more advanced species.
Mm.
Right? When we look at creation, right? And people want to go back to the Bible, and we'll just use that as the reference. Which one did God make first, and which one did he make second? And I'm pretty sure that if you do 1.0 and 2.0, 2.0 ain't the same as 1.0.
Mm.
You do it better the second time. You learn a little bit. You're like, okay, I did this one. We're gonna tweak it a little bit. Here, give me 1 second. I got it. My assistant's.
I'll be back too. Yeah, so it's great to see that you're still on this. I haven't relented at all in doing protocols, but we'll have to talk to Mark about how to get some product to me, brother, especially the new stuff.
Yeah, no, we've got a warehouse in Mexico, but right now, but in another week or two, we will have our new warehouses here in the US, with it will ship to Canada and Mexico from here, and have really quick delivery. So we're golden now.
Yeah, I've got a thumb injury. I actually smashed this thumb 20 years ago, had a metal plate put in it. You can see the
Yeah.
scar. And then I get the plate taken out because I had to play the guitar. That was my
Heck
profession,
yeah.
right? So, and for 20 years it didn't bother me, but a year ago or so, I bumped it, then I rebumped it, and again and again and again, out of clumsiness. And I'm hoping that your product can help in that as well.
So
I'm,
what's interesting with that, and so when you have an injury like that, like a fracture, or whether it could be a tendon, a ligament, or a brain injury. The increase in ionic activity of that area of injury causes an amalgamation of the heavy metals and toxins that will get into that area and block the healing process and proper bone development. So this is where the lead toxicity comes in, because lead will actually replace calcium and vitamin D in bone. So it actually blocks the bone from actually healing completely. So when you start to clean it out, you might get aches and pains in that area, because we'll be cleaning out the metals. But then with like Give Me Back My Youth and Crush, that provides the body with the tools it needs, along with the silica and clean slate, for the regeneration of tissue. So like Dylan, who's our resident super freak, he was a college All-American in rugby. I think it was earlier this year or last year. He fractured his wrist playing rugby. I mean, clean break in his I think it was his ulna, radius ulna. I think it was his ulna. So I mean, has the radiographs right at the end of it. Clean fracture across the whole thing. Was so swollen, his arms are so big that they couldn't cast him. So they wrapped him up really good. The doctor's like, go home, come back in a week, and we'll cast you, because they did the radiographs. I mean, he's got the X-rays. They're like, yeah, this thing's freaking broken. So goes home, triples his dosage of Give Me Back My Youth, so the collagen and colostrum and Crush. Goes back a week later, no fracture, already healed completely. He's like, oh yeah, I'm good. They're like, no, no, no. They were X-raying both arms, because they're like, which one's the he's like, oh yeah, I'm good. And the radiographs, I've got the radiographs on my phone. He's like, oh yeah, it's all healed. He was back playing competitive rugby 3 weeks after breaking his wrist.
So, are you in Canada?
US.
They
Oh
play
yes,
rugby.
we're in. Yeah.
They
Oh yeah,
play
we shipped to
rugby in
Canada.
the US.
What's that?
They play rugby in the US.
Some do.
That's the first time I've ever heard of that one.
Oh yeah. No, and he's good too. He's a monster. So Duquesne, our oldest son, the two of them, actually, we have rugby teams here, a lot of the private schools. So they played rugby at the University of Tennessee. Duquesne was all SEC. Like it's more of a club. It's not like an NCAA sport like basketball and football and baseball, but it is highly competitive. And we even have professional rugby now in America. It's nowhere near as good as what the Aussies and the Kiwis do, and what they do in England,
And
but it's
South
getting there.
Africa, the South
Yeah.
Africans.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah, but I didn't know that. Pardon my ignorance on that one. Wow, I just thought I felt sorry. I feel all my life I felt sorry for Americans because the best sport is Australian rules football
oh
by
yeah.
far. It shits on basketball, baseball, gridiron, and any other sport. And I look at the Americans, I'm thinking, come on, man.
Well, it's the funny part. Is like, look, you got to put on all these pads. It's like, have you seen some of these guys lay somebody out? And the beautiful part of like rugby and Australian rules football versus like soccer, right? Or American, European football is, and you probably know this analogy, that rugby and Australian rules is a hooligan's game played by a gentleman.
Yeah.
Soccer is a gentleman's game played by hooligans.
Yeah. And
Who
it's
go,
boring. Soccer's
yeah,
boring. I mean, 0-0. In Aussie rules, you can score 25 goals one side and the other side can score 27 goals.
yeah, and then it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And everybody's drinking during the damn thing, so everybody's happy.
It's just, yeah, it's a great sport. I love it with all my heart. It's Melburnian, it's Victorian, and I'm Victorian and Melburnian, and it's the only city in the world that can claim its own code of football. No other city in the world can say, "Oh, we invented soccer, gridiron, baseball." Melbourne is the only city in the world that has its own football code, and it's spread throughout all of Australia.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
See,
man.
there's my history.
Yeah. All right, brother. I won't keep you for too long. I don't like going over now when I'm talking about anything other than syncretism, because you need.
And then it cut us off. See, there it goes. You talk about cutting it off, and it just said in the beast said, "Nope, that's it."
So, well, anyway, the to purchase the products, the Root brand, it'll be in the description of the video, guys. So I always do that. So thanks for your precious time, Clayton, and thank you for your darling partner who has done all this. It's hats off to her, man. You got yourself a gem there. You've
Hey,
got a you've got a Proverbs 31. I think it's Proverbs 31 wife.
I think it's the one part for us to understand as men is the greatest thing we can do is allow the much more amazing women around us to be what they're created to be. And we have to show that the greatest strength that we have is allowing them to become stronger.
Yeah,
And don't we know that relationships are better when that happens?
yeah, brother. I've flunked a lot in relationships. So yeah, I agree. Anyway, all right, brother. So
Thanks.
let's do this down the track again with any new stuff that you've got or anything that you want to share. You just call out and
You know
we'll
what?
part three.
What we can do is for your audience, have them get some experiences and then have them share some questions and stuff that they are having in experiences or things that the audience wants to understand or get some insight into, and we can have some fun.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. There's a lot of comments, but uh, yeah, a lot of comments, and that's good, very encouraging. But nothing of the question type. So next time, maybe people will be more prepped for it,
We'll
and
do it. We'll have some fun.
we'll get people involved. Maybe we'll do it via Zoom through, and then people can join.
Hey, let's do it. Cheers, brother. Thanks
Much
for
love.
having me.
We'll see you soon.
See you soon.